What's up, guys? How's it going? I figured I'd play a Freddy clip to start things off since I dressed up today. Didn't really dress up for Halloween, but I figured I'd, for the stream today, wear my Freddy costume. So, how's everyone doing? Hope you all had a great Halloween, great October. Kind of went fast, honestly. It's already November at this point, and probably be the end of the year before we know it. So, yeah, I'll probably honestly take this off because I cannot use a mouse really with this. So, but I figured, as I said, I would dress up a little bit for today. I think I wore the same thing last year when I did my recap video of the 13 horror movies. But yeah, let me catch up on chat here a little bit. What's up, Rusty? Hope you're doing well. Okay, Matthew, what's up? Stewie, very nice. Yeah, appreciate it. Let's see. Just finished watching episode 2 of It. Welcome to Derry. I have not watched the episode yet, so I will say, if you guys are okay with refraining from spoilers for this stream, I realized I was like, should I try to watch it so we can talk about it? But I haven't done video yet either, so I figured why not wait for it. Maybe in the future stream we'll talk about it more, but I probably will watch it tomorrow, get a video out on it pretty quickly. So sounds like you guys mostly liked it, though, so that's a good sign. Use the claw. No, you're good. You're good. I kind of figured most people would have watched it by now, because to your point, it came out on Halloween. Yeah, I mean, no worries. I fully expected people to potentially have seen it already, so I figured I'd mention that early on, though, so that we don't do as much. Oh, you're good, Rusty. No worries. Let me throw some music on. All right, let me see here. Make sure I don't blast audio. I had put that Freddy clip together. I was like, I don't know if that's a friendly super chat clip, so let me just play it in the opening at least. All right, let me turn that down a lot. All right, that should be good. Yeah, did you guys dress up at all for Halloween or no? I wondered throughout the stream, how long will it be before I am not wearing this costume? I already took the glove off, so sweater's not super bad, but the hat's a little bit annoying. Yeah, did you guys dress up at all? Do anything fun for Halloween? Watch any movies you enjoyed? Maybe some of the ones we'll discuss today. But yeah, let me. I think I have the movies for a discussion today. I guess anything else you guys want to chat before we jump into the movies as well? Like, I know I put out videos for the Stranger Things season 5 trailer and the Scream 7 trailer. I know Scream's obviously a big topic of conversation here, so wasn't sure if you guys had any thoughts you wanted to chat about regarding those. And I will say, for the sake of the stream, the movies that we do discuss, spoilers will be wide open. So keeping that in mind, that if it's any of the movies on the 13 lists, we're going to go pretty in depth. So be aware that if you haven't seen it, I'll have it pretty clear if we're talking about a specific movie. So in that case, if you haven't seen it and you want to I don't know, mute things for a little bit, definitely can do so. Yeah. Let's see. Stranger Things. Yep. Ghostface. Oh yeah, I saw you mention that. How'd that go? Did you wind up scaring anybody? Did you get any videos of it? I think I'd be reluctant to do that today because I'd be afraid of somebody's retaliation. But back in the day, I remember when I went trick-or-treating when I was super young, I don't know, 4 or 5 maybe. And this dude would lay in his yard dressed up as a scarecrow, and we would walk up to the house and he would get up and chase us or whatever. But I feel like I'd be a little bit reluctant to do that today because I don't know, people are a little bit more willing to be retaliatory to you. What's your thoughts on hearing Dewey's voice? So I didn't, I know that was mentioned. I didn't listen to it back since I heard that feedback. I mean, we know he's in the movie, so it's not a big reveal. I'm glad they really went light on the spoilers for the trailer. We didn't really learn anything new from the trailer, it felt like. We knew Sydney and her daughter were going to be kind of the main people being attacked. And then beyond that, we knew these other people were in the movie, which we didn't really see here. So no videos. Your boy scared some teens. Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I think I mentioned before, we didn't really deck out for Halloween this year, but last year, or no, 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, we put a ghost face mask on like the front door. It just like lit up red and stuff. And this little girl was very reluctant to walk up to our steps because she was terrified of it. Yeah, we didn't really do much for Halloween decorations this year. We have pretty light stuff anyway. We don't really get super crazy with it like a lot of people do. Someone says your friends die around you. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be interesting because we know Dewey's not like a bad guy, so he's clearly being used like falsely. It's just a matter of, are the other people being used falsely? I still debate if like Stu could be alive, but then the others are fake. But yeah, we'll see. I know at first we were like, maybe it's flashbacks too. My thought is, what would like the creators feel like gave the least amount of backlash? Because they intentionally made it pretty public when they got like Matthew Lillard back and so forth. So to have like a small role that's not really integral to the story would be a bold choice if you didn't have him like part of the story. Granted, maybe they were trying to kind of recover from the whole backlash from the Melissa Barrera thing, and that was like their way of like pivoting the conversation. But I would be surprised if it's not like a main part of the movie. Granted, it's also pretty boring if you just have Stu be the bad guy, because there's not really a surprise in that. So you predict Stu was in a coma and woke up. The hard part is like, how do you have him be, because he was like off the grid, because if he just went to a coma, like went to the hospital, wouldn't Sydney know that? So he had to have like somehow disappeared from everyone else. The trailer's also getting a backlash. I mean, you can't please everybody all the time. I think that's just going to happen. Like, somebody's always going to be mad. That's okay. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. So I thought for a while, like, what if Sam was the bad guy and they just made up and had her secretly in the movie? That feels maybe less likely today, but plus use of AI masks and voice. Roman took him. Yeah, I heard Stu's voice at the end. I don't know if I did talk about it in the trailer review. That one I did pick up on. True, maybe Stu's had a change of heart. Could be flashbacks. I think if it's flashbacks, though, it would still have to be like kind of integral to the story somehow. What's up, the Resident Evil? How you doing? Hope you had a happy Halloween. Good start to November as well. More curious about the Ghostface saying the line about where we grew up. Maybe. I mean, the killer obviously has some scenes in Woodsboro, right? The opening, at least. Flashback showing Roman saving Stu. Oh, I gotcha. Oh, maybe. Him like rushing into the party and like bringing him to the hospital or something. Maybe. If Stu's back, do you think he looks the same, or do you think he has some kind of makeup on that's gonna make him look like he went through hell? Pretty good at watching the season 2 finale of your favorite analog horror. Nice. Then Stu in the Cali hospital. Is that where I didn't really look it up. Where does the new one take place as far as the town? Because I know Sydney's moved to some other like location at this point that's not Woodsboro. I probably should have looked that up. I feel like that would have been a good research thing to do, but I did not. It's Vita Carnis. Is that the analog horror you mentioned? I'm not like a huge analog horror fan, but I mean they're creative at least. But I'll look into that one at least. Stu is probably scarred up if he's alive. Yeah, I would assume so. I don't know. I don't know if they would give him like the whole Chucky like approach of just having like stitches on his face and stuff. I don't know. As I said though, you can't just have Stu be the bad guy. You have to have some kind of twist with it. So we'll see. Frankenstew, yeah, pretty much. Roman was in Hollywood. I haven't watched 3 in a while. I should probably give them all a watch maybe before 7 comes out. Yeah, the Stu killed Dewey debate was out there for a while. And, like, obviously in Scream 5, there's people's opinions of like, oh, it couldn't have been, what's her name? Like Mikey Madison's character. But I feel like for the most part with Ghostface kills, they don't try to be realistic. They're just, like, obviously, if you saw like a big person versus somebody who's a little bit shorter, you would be able to tell who the Ghostface was, but it's just the same outfit. So there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief when it comes to like Ghostface doing stuff everywhere. You predict the first Gale was one of the killers because we see her only in one scene of the trailer. I mean, if you have like Gale be one of the killers, you have to have like some really good rationale for like returning to that at this point in time. We didn't have Kirby in the trailer. Is she supposed? I thought she was supposed to be in the movie. But maybe I'm mistaken. But yeah, she wasn't in the trailer at all. Granted, there's like so many characters, it's probably hard to put everybody in the trailer. Yeah, Hayden Panettiere's character. Yeah, not that Kirby. Not that Kirby. Scream 4 Kirby. The one that was also, I guess, in 6. As like the... What was she, like some kind of like FBI agent or something? It was like, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I can pull up the list of what we're talking about today. I debated going back and talking about the ones I reviewed last year and seeing if my opinion has changed at all on any of them. I don't think I've really rewatched any of them, but maybe over time things have changed. And I didn't do a live last year. I did just a video on it. But we'll see. We'll see how much time. Probably not going to be a super lengthy stream today since it's pretty much just chatting. Imagine if Kirby was in Scream. I mean, we're getting... Scream in space could have Kirby in it. You never know. All right, let's pull up our list. I didn't overly prepare as far as this conversation, but I did provide my list of movies that we watched. I mean, yeah, King Matthew, you can share what you have watched in October. I'm probably mostly going to be discussing the ones I watched, but you're welcome to share things you did watch. Or, as I mentioned on Discord, if you've watched most of these, if you have your own like ranking of them, feel free to do that. Or I'm gonna go through them from like bottom to top as far as my ranking. So as we go along, if you want to give like a score, feel free to do that, or just chime in your thoughts. Either way, pretty open discussion today. But yeah, these were the 13 that I watched this October, and made videos on the first 2 here. So we have Event Horizon and The Cabin in the Woods. It's kind of weird. I feel like everybody calls it Cabin in the Woods, but technically the title is The Cabin in the Woods. I know it's like a small detail difference, but I noticed that even when I was doing the video review, I was just calling it Cabin in the Woods. But similar to Black Phone. Well, it's just definitely just says Black Phone there, but I'm pretty sure it's The Black Phone. Either way. So yeah, just kind of recapping the ones we are talking about today. Event Horizon, The Cabin in the Woods, whatever you want to call it. Paranormal Activity. Predator Killer of Killers, which I realized I was debating. I was like, It's kind of more sci-fi. Predator is kind of in that weird middle ground where it's like, it's kind of horror. I wanted to watch that, so I kind of made it easy to pick. Smile 2, Black Phone, Hereditary, Carriers, The Lost Boys, Creep, Strange Darling, Weapons, and Halloween 1978. So we'll be going through these. As I said, it'll be pretty obvious when I'm covering one. So if there's one that you're like, hey, I haven't seen that, don't want to hear about it yet, it should be pretty clear. I'm going to have numbers on each of these. So just keeping that in mind. I'm driving. Can you describe the posters verbally? I can. I picked mostly like the vertical ones for this. I think the Event Horizon one, I was going to have the one with Fishburne and Sam Neill, but this is one that it's more, I feel like it's kind of more revealing of what happens in the movie in that one. But I've only seen like 4 of the movies. Okay. Well, I guess keep in mind, if you don't want any spoilers, we're going to be talking about them. So maybe you're okay with it, but if you aren't, just be aware of that. What's the other Cabin in the Woods movie? Cabin Fever. Yeah, Cabin Fever was another one. I don't think I like that one as much, but there's probably a good amount of things. I mean, Evil Dead is kind of a cabin in the woods. Or there's like, not really a cabin in the woods, but like The Ritual, something where you're like out in the woods. You've seen all but 4. What's up, Ghost? Thanks for hopping in. We are, if it wasn't clear, ranking each of these 13 movies and talking about them. I will give the caveat, as always, typically with these things, where I rank them is my own opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but where I put them, just FYI, in case I offend like your favorite movie of all time. Please be respectful of that. Brad Murray on Elm Street. Nice. I like that. I like that. Good with spoilers. Okay. Yes, there's kind of a mix. So you may be like, why are these movies? I kind of just randomly pick for the most part. I want to get a good variety. Some older, some newer, a little bit of different genres represented. So like, yeah, I mean, everyone's got their own thoughts. We'll see at the end, as I said, if we want to talk about last year's. I don't know if I have that list. I definitely don't have it like a visual like this. So I may have my scores saved though, but we'll see. We'll talk through these and we'll make a choice on that. All right. So bottom of my list, and this is probably going to be the most contentious one because I realize I think it had like a 97% or something 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. So first one up here, and maybe I should pull up these on web browser too. I don't know if depending on the movie, if the pictures may be a little bit much for YouTube, but let me grab these so that I know what I'm talking about, the characters and so forth. Oh, this one I could probably share. I mean, the pictures on here are pretty much just the same pictures from the cover. All right, so first one for me, Strange Darling. You weren't here for last year's stream, so I didn't do a stream last year. I just made a video on it. So last year was the first year I did this. This year I didn't go as heavy because I did posts instead of videos for a lot of these. But I didn't start live streaming until this year, so that's why I debate talking about the 13 from last year if you guys want. But we'll do these first. So Strange Darling, bottom of my list. So this is one, and once again, we're starting into spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, now's your awareness point. Let me see if I can, let's switch over here. I'll probably go back and forth. So yeah, I just searched the movie on YouTube here, or on Google here, but pretty much the premise here is you have an out of like structured story, kind of like how Weapons did a little bit, where you have, I think there's 6 chapters in it, and they're told out of order, essentially. Let me see if I can get the order. Oh. Welcome to my... I need to turn that off now. Sorry for that being jarring. I had that on for whenever I jumped over to my camera. All right, let me see if I can get the order for this. Order of chapters. But essentially, you have a movie that's told out of order. Yeah, it goes 3, 5, 1, 4, 2, 6. So you're pretty much only being told certain information that they want to tell you at the time. And you're not, super informed yet because you start the movie off in chapter 3, then you go to 5. So it's a bit of an out of order situation. And let me see. That order largely dictates what they want the audience to know. So when you start the movie off, you have this girl running away, and right away they list she's probably the main lead in it, called The Lady, and you have her being chased by Kyle Gallner, who's being labeled as the demon. So right off the bat, they're trying to pitch as like, this is the victim, this is like the killer, whatever. And from there, you learn more information about what took place with their interaction that night. And we get more information as far as apparently Kyle Gallner is actually a cop. And he was just hooking up with this girl. And I don't know, it gets pretty aggressive in some parts where she's like wanting him to do stuff with her that he's like, I'm maybe okay with this if you are. But the big twist is that she's actually the bad guy. So that's mainly held together by us seeing the order of the movie out of order. And we find out she kills this guy. She goes to this guy's house to run away from Kyle Gallner because she tries to kill him in this hotel room. He winds up shooting her. She runs away and stuff. And she kills a couple other people along the way. She goes into this, I think it's a hotel maybe? Some kind of concierge location. And right away, the point of the story is, I feel like that women can be killers too, is kind of the point. Because she runs into this place and everybody's assuming that she's the victim. And then quickly they find out that's not the case and she would kill somebody. This actually also has, what's his name from Breaking Bad? Hank's partner is in the second half of the movie. So it's an interesting, I like that they attempted something. It was kind of a new concept. It wasn't just a remake of something we've seen already. So I appreciate that aspect of the movie. But the whole surprise with okay, women can be killers too, didn't work for me. That's something I, for the most part, try to treat everybody individually. So just because somebody looks a certain way and so forth, I don't assume probably good or bad until I see more information. So that one didn't hit as heavy for me personally. So that's for the most part kind of the premise of this one. But what are you guys saying? Let's see, I don't know where I was here. You haven't seen Strange Darling? Meant to watch it. I know it's super well received, and I can see why. I actually when I went to a convention earlier this year, one of the Evil Dead cast heavily praised this movie. And it was shortly after I'd already watched it. So I guess I could mention this for each of these. I watched Strange Darling earlier this year, and I knew I didn't like it. But when I rewatched it this October, I liked it even less. So you haven't seen, but you've heard of it. Yeah, it's kind of like Memento, where that you don't have the full information. That stuff I'm hit or miss on. It worked for me for the most part in Weapons, for example, but I kind of felt like Strange Darling, it was just kind of a cop out to trick the audience. It wasn't a revealing stuff. It was just solely meant to withhold information. Is she the actor from The Menu? No, yeah, that's Anya. We can grab the let me switch back over. All right, I turned off the Freddy clip. Let's switch over. We can see the cast here. So we have Willa Fitzgerald is the lady. What else is she in? Let's see. Reacher is probably the big thing I'm seeing. Apparently the Scream TV series. Yeah, I was not overly familiar with her work. She did okay in the movie. It was definitely not her acting. They also try to do the thing. I don't know if you guys have seen Pearl. I won't get into spoilers with it, but they end off this movie trying to do a similar thing where there's like an extended scene of seeing her in the passenger seat, just kind of like staring at the camera, kind of like what Pearl did a little bit. So it felt like in some ways it kind of copied other stuff as well. Her being the bad. Yeah, it was like they kind of tried to trick you so much. Like as you see in the description here, she's called the lady, he's called the demon. Like they wanted you to fully buy into like him being the bad guy until about halfway through the movie when it's like, oh, she's being a little bit strange here. Like she, as I said, they're like hooking up and she's wanting him to do like inappropriate stuff. And he's like, all right, I'll do it if you want to. But earlier on, we see him like choking her and stuff. But then we find out she was like into that. So I don't know. It felt like they just tried to deceive the audience for the sake of it. And as I said, the whole point of the movie feels like it's implying like women can be killers too. But for me personally, that message doesn't necessarily hit super hard. But I can respect if someone else likes a little bit more. It's a great one-time watch. Yeah, I can see that. Like, I think I talked about rewatchability being low. Mainly, one, because I didn't really like the movie, but it is one of those that once you know the outcome, some of the, like, surprise is taken away. Sometimes watching those movies a second time could be fun, though, because you're like, oh, I didn't pick up on that. But this one I was not a big fan of. You're in love with Pearl. Probably the best of the 3 X movies, in my opinion. I'm not like high on the X trilogy, but it's probably the best one for me. She went and plays Roscoe and Reacher. Huh. Yeah, I didn't really know her. I knew Kyle Gallner. He's in another movie on this list that we're going to talk about. But he's in like a ton of stuff. He's normally not like the main character. He's like the side character in a lot of stuff. So yeah, he's in Smile. We're going to talk about Smile too. Jennifer's Body. He's kind of he's in a Nightmare on Elm Street remake actually. Yeah, here we go here. In Dead by Daylight, he plays the character they included, Quentin. He's also in Scream 5. Not for nearly long enough, but he's kind of frequently the fringe character in a lot of stuff, but I like him overall as an actor. He did all right in this. His character, that's the one thing. I don't know if I talked about it as much because with my post, I try not to be too spoilery there. But there's a scene in this movie where he has, I can switch back over here, where he has the lady like dead to rights. So she's like running away from him. She goes into this house, kills his husband, and then like the wife just like runs away. And Kyle Gallner's chasing after her, which this is the point where we're like, oh, is he the bad guy hunting her down? But she hides in this like freezer and he finds her in there and she's handcuffed to the freezer. So she's totally screwed at this point and he's got her trapped and he calls like his backup or whatever to come handle the situation. I feel like he's probably gonna get in a little bit of trouble because of his role in all of it, but he was clearly not the murderer at least. And she like kind of tricks him into like walking closer to her, but then she sprays him with like, I don't know if it's like bear spray or something like that, something that like typically would like get in your eyes, like pepper spray type of thing. And instead of like backing up and trying to like compose himself, he just walks straight into her. Like he can't see anything and he just goes straight into her and just, she like bites off part of his neck or something and he like is bleeding out. And I don't know, that like character choice was like one of the worst choices in like a movie. I feel like you can't see, this person just attacked you. I don't think the choice is to like move towards them further where they're like chained to something. They can't come after you. But yeah, then the cops show up and I for the most part liked as I said, I forgot his name, but the guy who plays Hank's partner in Breaking Bad. Is he gonna be on here somewhere? There's also the guy from I think he's in Pineapple Express actually. Yeah, this guy. He's the husband at the home. I think he's in Pineapple Express, as I said. That's kind of what I recognize him from, but probably in other stuff too. But yeah, this guy. He is the cop. He's probably the least insufferable character for me because he shows up and he's like, hey, this is a crime scene. We have to take this seriously. And his partner's like immediately jumping to saying this girl's the victim. And he's like, I don't know about that. And it turns out he's right. But yeah. I don't know. It was definitely more of like your artsy style of film, which, as I said, I can appreciate them going for something. And I'd rather them do this than make the 50th remake or sequel to something. It was just kind of a hit and miss for me. All right. Let me catch up a little bit. Pearl Hunter and I made a long dialogue. Yeah, I mean, the concluding scene in this movie feels like it tries to steal from that a little bit. There's not the dialogue, but like when she's like just staring at the camera, like doing that thing. This movie kind of does that too. You love X, Pearl, and Maxine. Yeah, I think they're, to me, once again, they're a little overrated. I felt like X was kind of just a Texas Chainsaw replica. Pearl was probably the most unique to me. And Maxine, I don't know. It was okay. It's more about perception, POV changes. Yeah. I mean, if that part works, then that's kind of, as I said, Weapons does that. I just feel like Weapons does it a little bit better, in my opinion. Gallner had a similar role in Scream 5. He was in The Haunting, Connecticut. Yeah, he's in a lot of stuff. Like, he's in probably a ton of horror franchises that you just don't think about it. Yeah, I was bummed to see him not in more of Scream 5. Talking about Gomez. Oh yeah. He's the one that's in this movie. The ending smile scene. Yeah, I mean, we're doing spoilers for this movie. They do that here. Like, she winds up like getting caught essentially, or she gets shot by this woman. She also gets shot a ton of times in this movie. Granted, she's like hopped up on drugs, but she just like keeps going after getting shot a bunch. And eventually she gets shot by this other lady who's actually finally smart. Pearl X Maxine. I agree with the order. I don't agree with the franchise being one that I like, but I agree with that order. That's the order I'd put it in. You like Pearl the least, Rusty? Yeah, Pearl is definitely, I was going to say Wizard of Oz, but it's like horror, obviously. The scene where the guy finds out that she's like messed up when he's like in the barn and he's like trying to get back to the car. Like, that scene's pretty wild. Pearl's slow for you. Fair. I would agree in general. I don't know. I'm definitely not like a current generation where I need like immediate gratification of like TikTok and stuff. But there are movies on this list I'll discuss that were a little bit too slow for me. All right, let me see. I didn't grab my post information. I was going to debate doing reviews for these and like maybe taking part of the live stream. But I'm like, maybe at some point I'll do like shorts with the post information I had. All right, where was this one at? So I mentioned one of the things in my post that I like the background here. Like, it's super pretty of an environment. Not that that's like remotely tied to the movie. Yeah, and as I said, I think the main point is like I didn't really love the characters and the message kind of fell flat for me. But it is well received and liked by a lot of people, so maybe you'll like it. As I said, I think it's like a 90-something% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I was a little bit reluctant to totally bash on it, but it was not one that worked for me. All right, next up. You guys like my little animations there I made? We have Creep. So Creep is a found footage film. It's on Netflix. I don't know if it's anywhere else. I feel like it was a Netflix movie. And it's another one that I watched earlier this year and then rewatched it for October. And my opinion mostly stayed the same. I will say. I'm trying to grab my notes on this one. When did I watch that? These are not in the same order. Okay, there we go. Let me grab this on Google as well. Let's see if there's anything worthwhile sharing. Yeah, let me switch over to that. So, found footage film. These guys were actually at the convention I went to earlier this year. Pretty much just made by two guys. So, let me switch back over to that. These two guys, Mark and Patrick. I think there's a second one on Netflix I haven't watched, and I think maybe somebody mentioned that there was going to be a third one, which I'm not sure what the second one really entails, but kind of feels like Beyond One is unnecessary. But it's a found footage film. The plot of this movie is you have this guy, Aaron, who accepted a job on like Craigslist or something somewhere to pretty much film the other guy's life, because he stated he has like cancer, I believe, and he's not going to be around too much longer. And he wants a lot of his life to be filmed so he can share it with his like kid in the future. Which weirdly enough, that's kind of similar to that other Netflix documentary that's like super sad actually. But either way, this one, so he goes to visit his house, and over time, as they spend time together, Joseph is like doing a lot of strange things. Like he's being pretty weird. He's like, I'm gonna take a bath. Come in here and film it for my kid. He's gonna love watching this in the future. And they go on like a hike and stuff, and he just like runs around. And he's acting very bizarre. And multiple times throughout the movie, Aaron tries to leave and kind of gets sucked into staying. Like he loses his keys at one point. And Joseph puts on like this mask. Also, you can kind of see it in some of these pictures here, I think. This like wolf mask. Dear Zachary, yeah, that was the documentary that's super sad. But he puts on this wolf mask, and he's just acting very like batshit crazy throughout the entire movie. And later on, Aaron calls, or he winds up talking on the phone with who he believes is Joseph's wife, I think, but it winds up being his sister. And she's like, hey, get out of there. He's a little bit crazy. So then he tries to leave, and that's when the wolf mask stuff comes out. Eventually, they do wind up separating. And the second half of the movie is pretty much Aaron back at his apartment or whatever, or his house. I think I like that stuff a little bit more because he's pretty much being like stalked by Joseph at that point. And Joseph is sending him like tapes in the mail and stuff like that. And eventually, like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Joseph plays a good like back and forth character because there's times where he's like totally insane and like clearly you should get away from him. But there's other times where he's like pretty charismatic and like very sympathetic and you want to be like friends with him. You feel bad. He's like owns up to some of his decisions. He's like, hey, I'm a little crazy. Like, I didn't mean to do this. Let's meet up one last time. I really want to apologize. All that kind of stuff. Which I don't know if I would have accepted that invitation, but Aaron does. And goes to meet him at this park and leaves the camera in the car, like facing towards where he's going. He winds up sitting on this bench, and I don't know if like realistically he wouldn't have turned around because, or even seen him, because he turns around at one point, and then like only a few seconds later, Joseph shows up behind him, and somehow he didn't see him prior to that, but that's probably heavily nitpicking. But then Joseph just kills Aaron at the end. So, and then we find out that Joseph has done this with a lot of people. He has like this whole closet of tapes where he is like recorded doing this to people. So pretty much just found footage film where somewhat psychotic person is preying on the kindness of people. It's kind of also one of those situations where you don't want to be like awkward, so you continue to like help somebody. It's kind of similar to Weapons we'll talk about later, but there's a scene in that where the principal like invites the woman in and stuff and like gets her a bowl because it's like, this is awkward not to help you, but I don't know why I'm doing this. So yeah, other than that, let me see what else I had on my post that I made. I will say too, I had seen there's kind of mixed feedback. Apparently this movie was like made with less than $500. Like it was pretty much just these two guys just grabbed a camera and they made a movie. So that part is cool. It is a slower paced film. We talked about slow paced stories. Kind of happens here. I think a lot of found footage has that problem though. There's also a part where like there's a story being told by Joseph and there's just a straight up black screen. Thematically makes sense because Aaron puts the camera down, but he's still recording. Like, so it makes sense in the world that that would be on the camera, but it's not really interesting to watch. And I also thought that Joseph, while he was a cool like villain, it's weird that nobody's ever caught him for this. Like, he takes out Aaron in like a public park. And now he has this like whole room of other people he's done this to. I don't know if I fully buy that, but yeah, let me catch up on chat now. Haven't seen Creep either. Yeah, found footage I'm a little mixed on. It's definitely not my go-to genre. Third one coming. Yeah, I think you Copier when I mentioned that. Fair, Rusty. You have different moods for different movies for sure. Haven't watched this one, Creep. It's an okay, easy watch. Like it's only like an hour and a half, I think. I mean, I just kind of spoiled a lot of it, so. But if you like found footage, it's still maybe worth checking out. Creep 2 is a little bit different. The vibe is different. It has a woman instead, and he's very honest with her, but she thinks it's a joke. Interesting. Okay. Is Aaron not, or Patrick Bryce not really in it then? I assume Mark is, but maybe not Patrick. Is this the Freddy? Yeah, this is the Freddy Krueger stream today. So yeah, that kind of summarizes my thoughts on Creep. So far, I'll tell you when we kind of shift over, we're still in the like below average movies in my opinion. Strange Darling, probably well below average for me. Creep, slightly. If we're taking into account the budget, I feel like it could earn a few more points, but trying to treat these kind of equally. You don't believe Aaron's in it? Okay. That, I mean, that makes sense. They'd have to be like flashbacks or something, or like videotapes of it, maybe. All right, sounds good, Kim Matthew. All right, so that was number 12. Number 11. I don't believe we're going far here. Paranormal Activity. So, as mentioned, found footage is not necessarily my favorite, but there are ones that are okay. I would say maybe the Blair Witch Project could be my favorite found footage, mainly because of like the nostalgia for that one. I feel like a lot of people probably have nostalgia for this one, but mine was more so with Blair Witch. All right, so this one I gave a flat 5 average. I think when I watched this previously, I probably wouldn't have overly thought it was great. I think the first time I watched it, we may have even like not finished it because I was like kind of bored. Similarly, it's kind of a slower paced movie. I will say, I mentioned this in my post, if you watch it like by yourself in the dark, which probably is the case for a lot of movies, it's a lot scarier because there's like scenes where pretty much the point of this one is you have this family or this couple who moved in this new house and they start experiencing like paranormal stuff, paranormal activity, if you will. And apparently the wife has some kind of like past with this kind of stuff. And pretty much you have the husband who just bought this camera and he's recording everything at this point. And to try to capture this stuff, he like keeps the camera on a tripod, watching them sleep at night. And a lot of what we get is like fast forwarded footage of the night. But pretty much the scares in this movie come from at nighttime, things will move without being like touched. Like you'll see the door close or the sheet will move or you'll hear some noises. And this kind of, I feel like this came out towards the back end of Saw as far as like original release time. And I don't know. For the most part, this is one like on your first watch. We talked about it a little bit with Strange Darling. I think your first watch is probably a better experience than some of the later ones because the real intrigue of the movie is like what's going to happen each of these nights. And once you know that, then it's a little bit less like scary. I do like the characters that they bring in. So they bring in, let's see if I can pull this one up, I guess. They bring in some like specialist who's like actually not a specialist. Turns out it's like somebody who, yeah, Dr. Fredericks. His character was pretty good. He was like giving them information. It's like a lot of suspense building when he's in the scene. He's like, you guys got to be careful here, type of thing. Both the characters, though, kind of found them to be pretty insufferable. Like, I feel like Katie is just like super bitchy, and this guy is just kind of like a dunce. He just wants to record everything, which works for the movie because we need to see it. But she, like, multiple times is like, stop filming. He's like, all right. And then you're like, still will keep the camera. There's definitely a few parts in this movie, too, where I mentioned Creep did it well, where he puts the camera down, and while it's not fun to watch, it's realistic. It's kind of unrealistic some spots here where there's, like, conveniently a camera there recording it. She's also, like, as I said, kind of badgering him about recording stuff. But then she'll pick up the camera and record. I'm like, you just said you didn't want to do that. Why are you grabbing it now? But, yeah, I think this was more of a product of the time, to be honest. This picture pretty much sums up this movie. Like, these are the moments to watch it for. Oh, actually, I didn't even switch over. My bad. It's off screen. But you kind of get the vibe. These pictures, this is like the recording at night where stuff's just happening in the room. But yeah, they made an entire franchise out of this. I've only ever watched the first one, so let me know if you guys like the franchise and think they're worth indulging in. I would be open to doing like a ranking in the future, but I kind of imagine the first one's probably the best, and the first one was just average to me, so I imagine they probably go downhill. But unique for the time. Let's see what else I had here. Yeah, I think it's for the most part my thoughts on it. What are you guys saying? It's probably your favorite one, although it isn't the scariest. Probably 7 out of 10 for you. Yeah, I mean, it's got an 82% of Rotten Tomatoes, so clearly a lot of people dig it, for sure. Paranormal Activity is a fun watch. Yeah, I would say that's probably how to view it. Like, it's not, for me, it's not like a great movie, but it's like if you want to throw it on. Maybe one of those movies where you show somebody who hasn't watched it yet, because as I said, those night scenes are kind of the main part of the movie. That's fair, Rusty. If you watch a lot of stuff, that makes it harder to like want to watch those things. It's kind of where I mentioned 3-hour-long movies. Like now, I'm a little bit reluctant to watch if I haven't watched it yet. Like we talked about, I haven't watched the second Avatar. Dune, probably I need to at some point, but any of those movies that are like really long, even with horror movies, I was like, I wanted to knock some movies because of how long they were. Like, if you're over 2 hours as a horror movie, that's when you kind of struggle. Like, an hour and a half to like an hour 50 feels like kind of that sweet spot. Depending on the genre, obviously. But with horror, I think if you're going over 2 hours, it's got to be a really strong film. You've seen the first 3. Yeah, I mean, maybe at some point I would watch them, but I've only ever watched this first one. All right, that was Paranormal Activity. Let's see what is up next. I don't even know if I know. The Lost Boys. So, once again, probably one that some people would disagree with, because what's the score of this one on 75%, so not as high. But definitely one that's heavily nostalgic for a lot of people, I will say. Let me grab my comments on this one. So, pretty much the plot here is it's an 80s movie, and you have this town that this family has now moved to. It's 2 brothers, their mom, they're moving to live with her dad in, was it Santa Carla, I think is the name of it. And I do like the vibe of the town and so forth. Like the atmosphere that you're put in, I think is solid. Like the beginning, you kind of see everybody partying and stuff like that, and you're getting and understanding what this world is, we kind of find out there is a group of vampires in this town led by Kiefer Sutherland. Kind of a fun inclusion here. And well, I guess not led by, but as far as like the main big bad that we see for the most part, he's like the same age-ish of the older brother that moved to this town. So he kind of gets roped in with them. And yeah, the younger brother winds up finding a group of friends too that they try to stop the vampires essentially. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's not meant to be taken super seriously. It's kind of funny in moments. It can be charming. I think it's another one that's kind of a slow movie for me. But I know it's like super well loved. I think that like later parts of the movie pick up a little bit more. Like the final act when the vampires all try to converge on the house of like this family. And they kind of have like this Home Alone setup where it's like trying to pretty much kill them when they come in. Like they push one of them into like a bathtub of holy water. And some pretty cool moments. I feel like they capture vampires' appearance pretty well here. Like they look cool. But I think this is one of those, if you didn't have like the deep nostalgia for it, it's hard to have it now, in my opinion. I've watched it a couple times. I feel like I want to like it every time I watch it. Like it was tough giving this one a score because I'm like, I really want to like you, but I don't think I really do. What else did I have on here? Soundtrack is really good. I will mention that one. And then the visuals were a bit not for me. Like they do a lot of crossfading of transitioning between scenes. And there's kind of that typical thing where there's somebody like, if someone's being attacked, they'll just like zoom in on their face and just have like a black background and they'll just make like a terrifying face. So it's kind of a, I don't know, it's a little over the top. It's probably not meant to be taken super seriously. And similar to that, I feel like the ending kind of comes out of nowhere. Like there's the big battle. We find out who the big vampire like villain is. And then they get taken out pretty quickly. And then that's like, hey, movie's over. So I think this is one, like how I really like The Faculty. The Lost Boys feels like it's kind of like that for other people where it's like, you forgive a lot of like the flaws if you really appreciate it. But I don't know, maybe at some point I really want to like it. So we'll see if that changes in the future. But for this, like for now, this was a very middle of the road movie for me. All right, let me catch up. Length never scares you. I mean, longer movies are nice in some aspects because you can like be in the world more. I feel that way with TV shows a lot of times where it's like, I want it to be like only a couple seasons so I can watch it all. But also, if I like it, I want it to last longer. So your ADHD gets the best of you. I don't blame you. Lost Boys is an 8 out of 10 for you. I think a lot of people like it. I mean, what was the... I didn't even pull it up over here. Let me show... So some decent names here. Corey Feldman, obviously pretty well known. Let's go to the... But yeah, it kind of is like that Goonies almost, where it's... Let's just take off cast. So, yeah, here's kind of... maybe that's off screen. You can kind of see it with Kiefer as the vampire here. I think they look cool. Like, it's a very like cool movie overall, but story-wise, it doesn't keep me engaged the whole time. So, favorite vampire still has to be a vampire in Brooklyn. I don't think I've seen that. By this point, there are too many great vampire movies. 30 Days a Night I liked. Daybreakers I thought was just okay. I don't think I've seen Queen of the Damned. Sinners, yeah, that was a good one this year. Probably the movie I liked the most this year so far. Yeah, I mean, Kiefer definitely had that kind of like... I feel like if you watch this as a kid, you're like, I want to be like Kiefer Sutherland here. Like the the Sean Hunter of Boy Meets World type of thing. All right, next up. We have Smile 2. Even in Stand By Me. So, Smile 2, obviously, sequel to Smile, which I have not reviewed on the channel, but probably won't overly talk about it here. So, pretty much the point of this is there's this, I don't know what I want to call it, like it's not really a disease, it's not really like a curse. Something being passed between people to where if you watch somebody like do this horrific like murder or death, if like they do that to themselves, that is now passed on to you, in which you start seeing traumatic things and having a lot of traumatic things happen to you. So this is the sequel to that, and the movie opens up with also Kyle Gallner, the guy we talked about from Strange Darling, the demon, and he was in the first one. He was like our surviving character, and he has this like curse, and he's trying to find a workaround to pass it on to somebody else where he doesn't have to die. And he winds up grabbing like this like criminal or whatever, this like drug dealer, and goes in and he tries to kill one of them in front of the other guy to pass the curse on. They wind up getting in a gunfight though, and both of them wind up dying. So then Kyle Gallner's like freaking out, and there's somebody else in the room with him though. This kid who's he's in other stuff. I think he was in what was that movie earlier this year with Companion? Is that the name of it? Let me grab the list here. Switch over. So Naomi Scott is our lead here, but yeah, Lucas Gage, is it Companion? Yeah, he was in that. He was okay in that, but he witnesses the crime where Kyle Gallner killed somebody. So now the curse is passed on to Lewis in the movie. Well, then Kyle, or Joel, I guess, is in the movie. He runs out of the house, somehow gets just like crushed by this car driving in the road. So he dies in the opening, which we saw in the trailer. I don't know if that was a good move. I mean, I guess they prepared us for like not being bummed that he wasn't in the movie. But they did show us that in the trailer. So then Lewis here has this curse, to which he's friends with Sky, who's like this pop star. And she has some trauma as well and some baggage. So she goes to visit Lewis to get some like painkillers because she's been in an accident previously. She's recovering from it still. Well, he winds up taking himself out and passing it on to Sky. And it's pretty gruesome. He has like a weight in the room. He's like smashing it against his head over and over again. So the gore in this movie is exceptionally well done. So now she's got the curse and she like starts freaking out. And a lot of people think because she has like a drug problem that's why. I never wound up watching him, but I kind of thought that would be similar plot lines where it's like, oh, you probably have a concussion. You're crazy. Same situation with her where she's this like pop star who's had a drug past and people just think that she's like need to go through recovery. Like even her mom doesn't believe that she's not like taking drugs. And there's some fun plot points I will say throughout it. And I feel like I want to like this more than I do. On first watch, I don't think I liked it as much as I did on the second watch. Honestly, I debated on the second watch, like raising it another point. But I kept it kind of in the middle average for now. Because there's some fun like mechanics that they do here. Like she has this friend who she's kind of broken up with. And she calls her to try to help her through this. And I mean, we're well into spoilers at this point. But we find out her friend never was there the whole time. Her friend was part of the Smile thing taking place. So that was kind of a fun twist. It's also, I'm a little bit torn because sometimes it's cool when we have like her doing things that she's not aware of. The hard part with that in movies is it's hard to get grounded and everything you just kind of assume is fake. So that's kind of the challenge. But at the same time, like the scene with her mom when she's in the hospital room is pretty gnarly. And she also has this guy. It kind of doesn't really go anywhere. That's kind of the original gripe I had. she has this guy call her and like text her saying, I know what happened to Lewis and so forth. And apparently his brother had gotten this curse and he tries to like stop it. So he's like, hey, Sky, we need to kill you temporarily and bring you back to life. Like they kind of do that in other movies too, so that the curse can be gone. And then it doesn't really go anywhere because I don't think that actually winds up happening really. I don't even know, like, I think there's some people that believe the guy that calls her and talks to her may not even be real. So I'm not sure there, but either way, when they try to do that plan of her dying and coming back to life, she just starts seeing stuff. It's cool looking, but then we kind of just cut to her at a concert, and this felt obvious when I knew the plot of the movie. She goes out to do her show, and sure enough, she passes it on to like the entire crowd because she like kills herself on stage. And I don't know if they'll do a Smile 3, but everybody in the audience now has this. So it's kind of like a Jurassic World Dominion or Fallen Kingdom where it's like, let all the dinosaurs out. It's now everywhere. You're all screwed. So some of the stuff I liked the idea. It just didn't like fully commit to some of it. What else? I guess, the other part I didn't really mention. I liked her more on the second watch because I knew it was coming. But I, a lot of times, struggle with movies when the main character is not very likable. And I liked her at first, but then we find out that she pretty heavily was responsible for killing her boyfriend at the time. They're both probably liable in some ways. But they were driving and they're all like on drugs, and he's like berating her a bit. And her response is grabbing the wheel and just driving them off a cliff, in which he dies. And that's why she's like needs to take painkillers now. So she didn't strike me as like an overly likable character. She was pretty flawed, but I think on second watch was less concerned with that. One of the problems I had, I didn't review Trap on the channel, but kind of had the same situation where there's a little bit too many scenes of just her like playing music and so forth. Like how long is the movie? 2 hours and 12 minutes. Yeah, that's, if they cut out some of those, I think it would have been okay. And the movie is a pretty heavily jump scare reliant too. I will say, like stuff just popping out at you. I think a lot of scenes people think are a bit goofy. Like when she's in her apartment and the like mass amount of people are like following her and she turns around and they're just like up on the ceiling. I think a lot of people couldn't take that seriously. It was interesting, the pop star element when she would be like signing stuff and fans would come up and be like very like unhinged, wanting autographs and wanting to be around her. So that stuff I feel like was interesting, showing off the like downside of fame, I guess. All right, let's see. Yeah, he smiled too. Wait, Smash Face was fun. Yeah, I mean it was pretty gory. Like this movie's a lot more gory than I thought I would have expected because, I mean, you have people pretty much like taking their own lives. My favorite part of Smell 2 was the dance team. Oh, the thing I just mentioned. I think a lot of people thought it was like too silly. It was kind of creepy though too. It was very similar to like the mannequin stuff where you would like turn around and they'd be like standing there. And then she would run, they would follow her. There was a lot of weird, like, there's a pretty good amount of body horror in the movie too. Like, I feel like 3 separate times people are putting their arms like down her mouth somehow. And it's like expanding. It happens in that scene, for example. Twist reminds me of another movie I watched. Fair. Fair. They have to make a Smile 3. True, I mean, it was a bit of a cliffhanger. What's up, Chris? Everyone's gonna die. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, all right, dinosaurs are out. You guys are all effed now. Plan on checking it out. I would say check them out. I think I haven't done a review on it, but I probably like Smile 1 more than 2. But on second watch, I will say I liked the sequel a little bit more because I didn't have my hopes up for certain things. Smile 2 Blue. Fair. Smile the World's End. Yeah, pretty much. It was interesting. I don't know. I feel like, did you like, anybody who watched it, did you like how her mom was there at the end in the concert? I'm not really sure because it definitely played on the like, oh, nothing you saw was real. But that was such a traumatic scene in the hospital room. And then we're like, oh, she's actually still here. I don't know. Some of the like misdirects that they did, I feel like kind of watered down the impact of stuff actually happening because you just assume everything's just fake at this point. The friend twist was kind of fun, I will say. Although, I don't know if it fully worked when she's like then driving the car at the end and then like, oh no, she's actually driving the whole time. But her friend's smile also, I think the hard part with smile as a concept, some people look scary when they're doing like the creepy like ee type of thing. But some people look bad. Like, let's see if there's any of them on here. You can kind of see this is Lewis here. Yeah, you see like other people doing these, these smiles. I forgot about the scene where she's. So that's the other part. They everyone around her keeps trying to push her to do like celebrity stuff. Like, hey, make a guest appearance here, and she's like, I can't do it. I'm kind of unhinged right now. I can't. Like, I'm not in a good mental space. Let me just be by myself. And they're like, no, do it. So some of that like aspects of being like famous was cool, and also people kind of just like mooching off of her and her success is their success type of thing. But yeah, this one with this guy here, it's when she's speaking at this like charitable event, and she winds up like knocking this older woman like off the stage. But I don't think I see her friend on here, but her friend's smile, this girl, when she's smiling in the car, it like is not scary to me. It's like, can we find a different way to smile to make it a little bit creepier? Some of them look like pretty bizarre. All right. And you're gonna say that part was goofy? Yeah, I mean it fit thematically. It just when the people were like stacked up on top of each other, I'm like, all right, it's creepy. I will agree, but it's a little goofy. Enjoyed 2 more than the first. Enjoy the cat part. The first one, I'm trying to remember what part you're thinking. Yeah, I did like the friend, like when she's in the car and she gets when you see the phone calls from her friend and her friend's driving, it's like, oh man, like that was kind of cool. And then I will say, watching it again, when like her mom comes over in the morning and her friend talks to her, but her mom doesn't respond. Like, it's fun seeing things like that. Like, oh, they weren't there this whole time. True. Yeah, this is Jack's kid, which I think they were trying to kind of give some shining love here. Yeah, so the smiling, I mean, it's hard to explain. It's just kind of there. It's just like a creepy thing to pass on this like curse. It's kind of more so like one of those like awkward scenes where you're just like standing there, somebody's like smiling, and the other person's like, hello? You gonna do something? Like, what are you doing here? So it's kind of that uncomfortable feeling where it's like, are you gonna say something? Are you just looking at me? But it's pretty much how this thing gets passed from person to person. So like this evil entity moves on from people through smiling. Smile cat part, beauty part. Oh, I'll have to rewatch the first one again. I think I've only watched it once. And I've watched this one now twice. All right. Let me switch over. So that was Smile 2. Did I say everything I wanted on that one? Let me see. Yeah, I think so. Next up, we have Event Horizon. So this is one that Cope had requested a watch. I had never seen it before. So of these, Strange Darling I've watched twice now. Creep I've watched twice now. Paranormal Activity I think twice as well. Lost Boys. I think all these I've watched twice. Event Horizon was a first watch for me. So this one, let me grab Google here too. This is one that I feel like I'm debating if I can show Google searches on this one. There's some pretty bloody faces. All right, let me go to the main page that I can do. So, a late 90s movie. Kind of a pretty star-studded cast at the top end, at least. So we have Sam Neill of things like Jurassic Park and what's that other horror movie he's in? And Lawrence Fishburne, who, in some ways, at the beginning of this movie, I'm like, there's Morpheus, because it starts off being very sci-fi heavy. And I'm trying to think of anyone else. I mean, I talked about this guy being in Full Court Miracle. I don't know if any of the other people I overly know, but pretty much the plot of this movie is you have this cast of characters who are on the Lewis and Clark, I think is their ship name, and they're out in space. So this all takes place out in space. And somewhere out of nowhere, Sam Neill's character pops up. So Dr. William Weir shows up on the ship, and he explains to the cast, hey, this Event Horizon, we get some text at the beginning kind of explaining the history of the Event Horizon, but pretty much it went missing around, I think it was Neptune, and was just like off the grid. And they were trying to find it this whole time, and it was kind of went nowhere. Well, he comes up to this crew and is like, hey, I found it. I know where it's at. And I know how light travel works because I created this whole thing. And like the Event Horizon was kind of like his baby, it seemed like. So they're like, all right, sure, let's do it. We're part of this team that does the mission. Let's go check it out. So they go there, and sure enough, the Event Horizon is out there. And they're all kind of like mesmerized by it. And as they go on the ship, they start to uncover that there's like some horrific stuff that took place here. There's a room where like there's this spinning orb. I don't know if it's... I'm reluctant to show it because some of the pictures I'm like, I don't know if YouTube would love. Well, this one kind of shows it, but there's... Either way, there's like this kind of thing that functions the entire ship of the Event Horizon. And as I said, they go on the ship, they start seeing these horrific things. They find out the crew are all dead. And they watch some logs of them, and they see kind of what happened with them, which we get a little bit of that. I think there's an extended version that got lost that showed that a little bit more extensively. We find out that William Weir's character, actually, his wife took her own life because he was like so committed to his work and like doing this like light speed travel stuff that he was kind of neglecting his relationship with her. And he's like seeing visions throughout this of his wife, and she's like missing her eyes and stuff like that. And he pretty much has been possessed to bring this crew out to the Event Horizon so it can like feed on more people, is my takeaway. So you have the crew, like a few of them dying throughout it. He's like sabotaging everybody throughout the entire movie. Like there's one spot where he takes a bomb and puts it on like the Lewis and Clark, which kills one of the guys and then sends one of them else out into space, which he winds up coming back later on, which is a little bit silly. But it pretty much culminates with Sam Neill being in this room with this gun. And this is one of the things I did say. I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. We have Lawrence Fishburne there, and I think the first woman here. And they're in the room. And sure enough, Cooper, the guy on the far right you see there, who was blasted out in space, comes back. And he like lands on the window outside the ship. Well, Sam Neill just like shoots his gun at him for some reason and breaks the glass. And somehow actually none of them really die from this. We have Captain Miller played by Lawrence Fishburne and his lieutenant just kind of crawl away. They don't really get impacted by like space. Like, I don't know. I feel like they would have like disintegrated or like just crushed them from the force of being out in space without a suit on. So there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief. They crawl away. Eventually, Lawrence Fishburne winds up fighting Sam Neill. And we subsequently have Cooper, and as I said, I think it's a lieutenant, who are kind of stranded here because their ship's been blown away. So they pretty much conclude things with them going into like a cryo sleep, kind of like an alien. And they get woken up by some other rescue team. And you see the door kind of closing at the end. So it kind of hints at the cycle is about to start over again. But pretty much the point is this ship vanished from like radar because it went to hell or like some demonic realm. And the ship is like possessed at this point. And that's what's causing all of these deaths of the crew. So very creative concept. Like it starts off being very sci-fi. You're thinking this is gonna be like maybe an alien type of movie or like Life or something like that. And then we shift heavily into the horror aspect of stuff where people are seeing stuff, bad stuff's happening. And yeah, I mean, I think this is another one similar to maybe The Lost Boys where it's like, if you have like this deep nostalgia for it, you may like it a little bit more. You can forgive a lot of like the goofiness. The CGI is not great, but it's kind of your typical 90s CGI. But it's a fun concept, and I think it's executed for the most part pretty well. Yeah, that kind of summarizes my thoughts with Event Horizon. Never seen it. Smile 1 was good. Yeah, I think I liked Smile 1 more than 2. Yeah, that is the dude from Jurassic Park. Actually, I think in my review I put a clip from Jurassic Park. I wanted to put the one where he's like seeing the Brontosaurus for the first time, but I can put the T-Rex one because he has his eyes like X'd out later in the movie. So it's some decent gore in it, I'll say. We don't need eyes to see. Yeah, some definitely homage to other movies for sure. It's pure 90s horror. Shoots, yeah. It's kind of like that. I don't think it should be taken super seriously. I mean, there's some parts early on where it's like, oh, this is kind of cool sci-fi concept that could be realistic. But some of the actions and stuff that happens later, it's like, okay, this is kind of just for fun. Notice that Jason Isaac is Draco's dad. Mr. Malfoy? This dude, you're saying? Yeah. Lucius, right? Is that his name? Yeah, but it kind of strikes me as a cult classic. As I said, there's been like, apparently, I don't know how this would happen in like today's day and age, but I guess it is like a 30-year-old type of movie. There's like lost footage at this point that is apparently a lot more graphic in some of the crew scenes. So, but interesting concept for like a sci-fi horror. Sci-fi horror, I like a little bit more than like found footage, but I'm a little bit hit or miss sometimes if it works for me. And for the most part, I thought this one had a lot of things that worked. I mean, Lawrence Fishburne, I feel like is one of the cooler actors. So getting like a 90s Lawrence Fishburne. Is this right before The Matrix? I think, because Matrix was like late 90s, 2000. Smile 2, the worst movie in this list so far. Yeah, it's not. As I said, on second watch, I liked it a little bit more. But first time I watched it, I was like, it's okay. I do think Smile 2, they could probably cut out like 20 minutes, and I think the movie maybe would be better off. Yeah, before The Matrix. All right, let's see what we got up next. Halloween. So this is another one, maybe a hot take. Honestly, I debated like where I wanted Halloween on this list because I'm still not fully positive my thoughts on it. For now, I'm saying I would like to think it's a slightly above average movie. But I don't know, I've seen it a few times at this point in time. I definitely don't have like the deep nostalgia for this one that a lot of people do. I was probably late on the Halloween train. Like the first time I watched it was probably too late, I would say, to really appreciate it. Myers is definitely not one of my favorite villains. I think he's iconic. Like he belongs on Mount Rushmore for sure. But he's kind of just a guy in a mask, which is, I guess, part of the point. Like he can attack your suburbs. Like this feels like somewhat of the time it was more scary for people because it's like, you're not safe anywhere. Somebody could be stalking you and you may not even know about it. Honestly, there were some times where I watched it recently and I was like, that's kind of a funny scene. I don't know if it's meant to be, but there's moments where it's like Myers is like standing there. He like knocks like the plant or like the potted plant from the outside down. Like it feels like it's a little bit goofy at times where he's like accidentally bumping into stuff. I understand this is kind of tough because it is a pretty dated movie at this point. It came out in the late 70s. So I debate how much you can judge it compared to like modern releases. But if I'm trying to treat these all equally, I do think I like that it's really not like a gory movie at all. I think, 4 people die in it? But there's pretty minimal blood. And I think I'm okay with that because I don't need like a lot of gore in a movie. Like, partially why I feel like Scream works for me is because we don't need to see like somebody get like completely tortured. Like, just take them out, move on. Granted, they've kind of tried to increase that lately with like the ladder stuff and all that stuff, but I don't know, it's effective. It's a bit slow paced, I will say though. That was probably typically my critique of it, was that for most of the movie, you're kind of just like moseying along with the characters, and you have like Michael hanging out in the background, which isn't overly scary, but they also played like the theme song. Well, it's like one of the best horror theme songs of all time, or like main themes. They played a whole lot in the movie. Pretty much anytime you see Myers, and it's pretty loud too. Like, it's also hard to hear some of the dialogue when it's going on. But it's obviously an iconic score at this point in time. And I will say, it's like, if you're watching it during October, I think it works. It puts you kind of in the fall mindset, in the fall mood. But I don't know. It's not my favorite horror movie. It's not my favorite horror franchise, nor is it probably my favorite Halloween like season movie. I kind of am wondering sometimes where I'm like, am I giving you a higher grade because I feel like there's a lot of like, Halloween for me is kind of like the Beatles, where it's like, I recognize your greatness. You impacted a ton of stuff that came afterwards, but you're not my go-to watch or listen. Like, it's not my thing entirely, but I respect its like place in horror and how it pretty much kickstarted a lot of stuff. Kind of funny too that they're watching The Thing on TV in the movie, and then obviously John Carpenter made The Thing, so clearly a big favorite of his. I think he's been in the news a lot lately with like him giving his opinions on movies. So, but yeah, it's a hard one to place for me because there's times where I would have thought, is this a below average movie to me? But I think I like it a little bit more, kind of like Trick or Treat last year. I like it more on rewatching it. So for now, we're saying slightly above average. Fishburne's first movie was Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Dream Warriors. You like Halloween 2 better than 78. Yeah, so I haven't seen all of the Halloween movies. I have seen the second one. The second one definitely has more like carnage, and it's more like fast paced. Because I kind of feel like Halloween 2 is just Halloween 1B. Because we straight up continue from, Laurie in the hospital afterwards, which we do again in the David Gordon Green trilogy. But she's pretty much just from there, trying to avoid Michael. He's like killing people in hot tubs and stuff like that. And then he's like on fire at one point. So I'll have to watch the whole franchise at some point and maybe do a ranking. But I don't know. The OG is okay for me. It's a hard one to place, I'll say. Yeah, the ladder scene did make sense for Scream 6. I'm just saying they kind of do what Saw did, where it's like, hey, we need to have people die in way worse ways because we need to up the stakes every time. But yeah, what do you guys? Is Halloween your favorite of that franchise, or do you like other ones more? I don't know, maybe like 2018 more. I have to watch that one again. But yeah, that's Halloween. Don't think I probably need to talk about it too much. All right, next up, The Black Phone. So Ethan Hawke is probably one of my favorite actors. He's up there for sure. And this is another one that I've watched twice now. The first time I watched it, I thought it was a bit overrated. I liked it, but I saw people were like heavily praising it, saying it was like one of the best. And I didn't necessarily find it to be that great. I thought it was okay. Like, the trailer kind of revealed a whole lot, and like the whole kid stuff, I feel like they kind of gave that away a little bit too much, because there wasn't really like a surprise in the movie. Like, kid gets kidnapped. He uses the phone to talk to these other kids who went through the same thing and ultimately died. And they're trying to help him at this point in time, which is kind of the premise of the film. So pretty much it takes place in this small town. You get some backstory early on, and I don't know if all of it's necessary, but you kind of see this kid's life. He gets a little bit bullied. Honestly, this town is in some ways a little bit like Derry, where it's like the parents aren't really doing a great job. They're not necessarily the best influences, and the kids are having to take care of a lot of stuff. There's a lot of bullying in this too, where like people are just fighting constantly. And a few of the kids that we get introduced to earlier on in the movie get kidnapped, and then eventually our main character, which is Finney here, and I haven't seen Black Phone 2, so FYI, I probably won't talk about that today. So if we can refrain from too much detail on that one. I know that one is more fitting for my Freddy Krueger costume, but I have not watched it yet. So we have Ethan Hawke as the grabber, so this dude in this mask, which it's kind of a fun mechanic where he switches out the pieces of the mask. Like here you see him have a frowny face. And pretty much the kid gets kidnapped, and from there, there's this payphone in this basement that's like the only thing in there other than like a toilet and a mattress. And you have Ethan Hawke kind of doing the unhinged thing a little bit too, where he's like, I'm a little bit crazy, I don't know what's going on. And he's also a bit charismatic too, though. He's kind of like the guy in Creep, where he can be friendly, but he's also crazy. And there's other things at play here, like Finney's dad is pretty abusive. He seems to be kind of an alcoholic too. It sounds like their mom like saw visions of stuff, and he was traumatized by that, so he didn't want to have that same thing happen to his kids. But the daughter has some of that too. She starts like seeing stuff, and that's kind of how things get progressed. She is like dreaming about things that's happening with Finney and like what the house looks like and so forth. And she's kind of a fun character. She's like kind of a little bit of your comedic relief, where she's like cussing a whole lot and like asking for this higher power to help her out. And we have Ethan Hawke's brother come and stay with him, but he doesn't know that this is happening somehow. And there's like police trying to look into this, and they're like talking to the daughter as well. And as I said, Finney is getting help from these other kids who have passed away. And they're like, hey, do this to try to get out, or do this to try to attack him, or don't go up there now. He's gonna beat you at this point. There's some parts throughout it that I'm like, like he escapes at one point, and he's just like running straight down the street. I don't know if I would have done that. I feel like I would have gone and like try to hide or go up to a house. But he's just like sprinting straight down the street to where Ethan Hawke can catch up to him and recapture him. And eventually the kids give him enough help that he winds up putting a plan together to take out Ethan Hawke's character. So he kills the grabber at the end. And his sister brings the cops in. Turns out she's at the wrong house, because he hides the body, or buries the bodies, at this house across the street from the house that Finney's being held in. So there's two houses at play. Kind of a bit of a twist there, I guess, but it's not really a major deal. So he gets saved in the end. And presumably in the second one, it's like him being haunted. But yeah, I thought it was okay. I mean, it was, some concept worked for me, but it was a little bit slower paced at some spots. And as I said, the twist of these kids helping him kind of got spoiled with the trailer. I liked her. I like the sister though as a character. Like when she finds out it's the right house, she doesn't do like the bad character choice where she just runs in and gets kidnapped too. She goes home. She calls the cops that she has his number on a card. So I think the character choices made sense in the movie. I liked the phone conversations when they took place. So like when he's on the phone with one of the kids, they're not actually there, but you have the other kid like in the room with him sometimes, and you see them talking, but it sounds like they're coming through the phone still. So that playing with the visuals there was fun. What else? I don't feel like we got enough time with the grabber. Like a lot of the stuff he did was off screen, so we're not really shown how bad of a guy he is, other than seeing like the bodies buried at the end. And I don't think we get a whole lot of information. Maybe we do in the sequel, but like Gwen, the sister's powers, like she kind of feels like she just has these powers and it's not really explained. Not that it has to be, but we kind of just accept that as being part of this world. So decent movie. I liked it. Maybe about the same, maybe slightly more on the second watch, but above average movie for me. It's just not necessarily like the best of the best per se. You enjoyed H2O more? Ethan Hawke, a Horror King. Yeah, he's pretty solid. I don't know, I like him in probably most of the roles he's in. Even non-horror. Honestly, that's one of the reasons I didn't love The Purge is how they kind of handled his character in that. Black Phone 1's 8 out of 10. That was Benny dropping spoilers for Black Phone 2. Appreciate you watching that. Yeah, the Resident Evil. The sequel is actually, I don't know if it's still in theaters. I feel like movies are in theaters for like 2 seconds now, but Black Phone 2 was in theaters or is in theaters like a couple weeks ago. And it seems like it's gotten kind of mixed feedback so far. All right, but yeah, 6th place for Black Phone. All right, next up we have Weapons, which is one I watched, I guess, all these are like twice. I saw it in theaters. I wanted to do a review for it, but I think there was so much other stuff going on at the time that I wound up having to pass on doing one. So we'll talk about it now. Interesting concept. This was probably the movie I was most looking forward to this year because it's Zach Cregger, right? The guy who did Barbarian, which was a fun twist for that movie. I would say if you're going to watch Barbarian and you haven't seen it, don't watch any trailers, just go watch it. So I was excited for Weapons because I was like, I like the style he went with for Barbarian, and the trailers were intriguing. So you have this group of kids in this class who have all gone missing. They just ran out of their house at 2:17 a.m. one night, and they're all gone, and nobody knows what happened to them, except there's one kid in the class who does not go missing. So he's the only one left in this class of like, I don't know, 20 kids, something like that. And it's similar to Strange Darling. It's not by chapters, but it's told by perspective. So we get like the teacher's perspective, then we get the cop's perspective, then we get the principal's perspective, then this like druggy kid's perspective, and I think it wraps up with the student's perspective because we get the most information with his. I was probably hoping that the reveal would have been something more impactful to me because the movie starts off being very tense. So you have these kids go missing, and it's kind of narrated at the beginning by this girl that we don't really know. It's probably just some other person in the town. And then we cut to, I think the teacher, maybe the first one. But she's like being grilled by all these parents. Like, what happened here? Why is it, your class only had this happen? You have Josh Brolin. Let me grab let me switch over. So yeah, Josh Brolin is one of the dads. And Julie Garner, I thought did a good job too here. Benedict Wong is the principal. See otherwise cast here. Justin Long makes an appearance. He's not really in the movie, but He's in it for like 2 minutes as another one of the parents. But yeah, we kind of just bounce around with perspectives of, you know, what's going on with the story in this town. This is one that, while it is over 2 hours, I think I mostly am okay with it because it keeps you engaged. Even on like a second watch, I was like, I'm still, for the most part. It was probably slightly less, but essentially you're bouncing around perspectives. You have like these side plots that I feel like some of that stuff probably could have been cut. Like, it makes the world feel lived in and stuff, but the cop, Paul here, like his story doesn't really amount to much. The kid on drugs doesn't really amount to much. So some of them are just kind of like extras that kind of take you down different paths, but they don't really do anything story-wise. I feel like too, some of the stuff with like the mystery, I wish they had maybe more of that be covered. Like early on, the teacher's at home and all these parents just berated her and she's like terrified and people are like messing with her car, which we do kind of find out later it was Josh Brolin, which was just kind of funny to see that, like, oh, he was the one that had the red paint. But yeah, and then we have like the mystery of him, Josh Brolin as the dad, trying to like put this map together and find out where the kids went. So that was kind of a fun part of it. So I think the first half of the movie builds up towards something that I think that would get a little bit let down. It was okay. I think I was more fine with it because I knew what was going to happen on second watch. But essentially we have, kind of spoilery that she's at the front here, but we have this woman who is the aunt of the kid below her here. The only kid that doesn't get, or doesn't run out of their house. And we find out she's like a witch and she has these like powers where she grabs this stick and puts like people's belongings around it so that she can like control them. So she controlled all the kids and had them run out of their houses. And she's like growing weaker and she's trying to use the kids to like give her life, essentially. There's some pretty gnarly scenes where she like takes over the principal and has him run. This is kind of the classic like Naruto running, like where your arms are behind you, where you're just kind of like a honing missile. Some parts I don't think made it a lot of sense. So like before we get the reveal about the whole witch thing, a lot of the, like Josh Brolin, for example, he's at home and he sees her character like in his dreams, like haunting him. And I'm like, is that because she's in town and her like influence is like branching out and impacting people that are in the town? Or even I think the teacher sees that character, or the kid on drugs when he's out in the forest, he sees her. I'm like, why are they seeing her if they've never like actually seen her in person before? Is it some kind of like thing going on that's like impacting them across the board in the town? Not sure. They didn't really explain it. Also, why does Josh Brolin just see like a machine gun above his house when he's dreaming? Is that supposed to be a weapon? Like, I thought maybe that was going to be like a reference to like a school shooting thing, but it didn't really explain like why did he see just a big gun above his house? This movie also does like the horror comedy thing, and I think I wanted more of the horror than the comedy. They go full crazy at the end with the kids like ripping her apart and like jumping out of windows and busting down doors. So they go full nuts by the end of this movie. As far as like, you have to be like laughing at it at this point. And I think I would have preferred it being a little bit more serious with maybe some comedy too, but I think they fully leaned into the comedy at the end. Let's see if there any. Yeah, this is our antagonist here, which apparently they're supposedly going to be making some prequel in the future. I know Zach Krager's currently doing Resident Evil, so it'll probably be after that, but this character's like origin we're probably going to get at some point. So yeah, Weapons is the one with Josh Brolin. Was overrated, 5 out of 10. I would say it's probably overrated in that I saw a lot of people say it was like the best movie of the year. I don't think I would say that. even best horror movie, I think Sinners I still like more than Weapons. Although I can understand why some people thought that, but for me, it was really good, just not better than some other stuff. Yeah, supposedly they're doing a prequel with her character, which maybe would explain a lot more of like what happened here. So, all right, I think that covers most of my thoughts. Let me see. Oh, I guess, yeah, some of the scenes, as I said early on, there's a lot more tension in some of the scenes. Like, there's a moment where probably the creepiest was we have the teacher who's like she's trying to play detective and figure stuff out on her own, even though she should back off because she's very much looking guilty. But she's like outside the kid's house and just like falls asleep in the car. And they come out and like cut her hair while she's sleeping. And a lot of it's like off screen. You just hear like the car door open. So it's very like tense in those moments. But then we kind of go a little bit crazy after that. There's also some parts where like characters I feel like should have been a little smarter. Like you have Josh Brolin who has like this map layout to where he knows probably where like the kids went. And he goes to Justin Long's house. But he doesn't put two and two together that in that circle is where the kid who's not kidnapped lives. Like he finds it out later when the teacher tells him. They kind of team up later on. But I would have thought he would have probably, gone there knowing that pretty quickly. Yeah. Yeah, I would think I like Sinners more. Together, probably a toss-up between that and this one. Very different vibes as far as what you're wanting to watch. All right, let's go number 4 here. Hereditary. So this is one that I know a lot of people may have as their favorite horror movie of all time. They may say it's the scariest movie of all time, potentially. I don't think I would put it in that category, either of those, but it's a good movie. It's not one you can watch a lot, I will say. Like, it's pretty depressing. So it was hard for me to put it like very high on the list because it's great for like a one-time watch. But I'm probably not gonna like throw this on a whole lot because it's pretty dark. So the point of this one is you have this family who at the beginning, the grandmother has passed away. And it seemed like she had some kind of like spiritual stuff going on with her. The mom is like she paints like little or like makes little tiny like designs for stuff. And it's kind of creepy. Sometimes she like makes like dioramas of like the house and so forth, like the characters in the house. But pretty much the story kicks off with the older brother in the family is going to this party. And they've told us multiple times thus far that this girl can't have nuts. She's allergic to nuts. She's eating chocolate at the very beginning, and that's like heavily told us like, hey, she's allergic. Not a good idea. So the mom wants her to go with the older brother to this party. So he goes and he just wants to hang out with his friends and like smoke weed or whatever. So he goes to like some other room and he's like, hey, just if there's cake over there, go get some cake. And she goes over there, which I don't know how much, like, do you guys feel like cake should have nuts in it? I feel like cookies maybe. I don't feel like cake frequently will have nuts in it. So it was a bit strange that it did, but either way, she pretty carelessly goes over there and eats the cake, even though it's got nuts in it, supposedly. She then comes over to her brother and she's like, can't breathe. And he freaks out. He's going to take her to the hospital, but he's like still stoned, presumably at this point. And he's driving. She like rolls the window down to try to like get some air. And when she does, he swerves the car because there's like a dead animal in the middle of the road. And it's a pretty gnarly scene. There's a sign on the side of the road. She just smacks her head right into it. and it knocks her head off. So she dies right there. And this is also a movie where she's like doing a thing that I feel like a lot of people started doing afterwards, but it's kind of like her thing to recognize her, making that noise. But the kid, as soon as it happens, he is just like so traumatized. Like he doesn't not know how to respond at all. He's just like, is so emotionless. He just goes home and goes to bed. Like he doesn't do anything about it. He doesn't tell anybody. He just goes to bed, which is a bit of a bizarre response, but I feel like in the moment I could see a kid doing that, especially if you're like not in a right state of mind. You're like so traumatized. Sure enough, the next morning, family wakes up, mom goes to get in the car, and she sees it and has this like horrifying scream. And from there, it gets like darker and darker. Like she's not handling it well. Toni Collette probably deserves some kind of like award for this because she absolutely crushed it as like the main character here. And so she's grieving. She goes to like these things to try to help her manage her emotions. Actually, the music stopped. Let me keep that on repeat here. And in doing so, she runs into this woman who is like, hey, I know what you're going through. Have this way of still, talking to your daughter if you'd like. She kind of dismisses it at first, but eventually she's like, all right, let's do it. So they wind up doing like this seance, like Ouija board looking thing, pretty much, where they're like lighting a candle and they're like saying this, I don't want to say prayer, but like some like saying that summons this entity, which she's telling Toni Collette's character, hey, this is my, kid who's here with us. You can do this with your own kid. So she goes home and she convinces her whole family to do this. And sure enough, after doing so, instead of talking to their kid, they were actually talking to like some demon, some like evil force was actually who was there, wasn't actually her daughter. And it starts impacting the entire family from there. So the son starts seeing stuff and he starts freaking out. He's like freaking out in class and stuff. And yeah, pretty much from there, all of the characters, like after they've tried to summon the daughter, just have like traumatizing fates. Like the dad, he like burns on fire when she tries to like throw the book in the fireplace. And it's a bit silly later on. It was kind of creepy, but a lot of people thought it was like really goofy. Toni Collette's like crawling on the ceiling in the background at one point. And you have the kid who like jumps out the window. I think there's a few different beliefs. Like if he died when he jumped out the window and got back up, and that was not actually him being alive at the end. But either way, he gets up and goes like into this like treehouse type of thing, and all these naked people are in there from this like cult. And they're all like now part of the cult at this point. And yeah, it's kind of somewhat of your, this is Ari Aster, right? That did this. Yeah. It's a bit of an artsier film, I'll say, but pretty well done overall. Like, as I said, Toni Collette crushes it. I'm not the biggest fan of the older brother. He was the guy that was in Old also. Honestly, both kids were kind of just okay to me. But she crushed it as kind of the main lead. You haven't seen Hereditary? I recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it. As I said, it's not one that I would watch a whole lot, which is why I probably limited how high I put it here. Because it is a little bit darker overall. Like nuts and most things. It just feels like Cake was a weird one. It kind of feels like they forced that a little bit. And if she was that like dramatically allergic to something, I feel like there would have been more like guardrails in place to prevent her from doing that. But it's a lot of like grief and stuff and blaming each other. Like the mom blames the son because he was the one there when it happened, but then he like bounces back on her and is like, she wouldn't have been there if you didn't tell her to come with me, type of thing. So it's dealing with loss in kind of like a unique way, I guess. What else? Yeah, the ending, as I said, that part wasn't the strongest for me, where it just like it kind of just ends with everyone being overtaken by this thing. Is, once again, a little bit longer movie, over 2 hours. And while I think most of it is probably warranted, you could probably cut out maybe like 10 minutes. Yeah, I think it was Chocolate Cake, because they picture as being like a mega chocolate fan. So I think it was Chocolate Cake. Also, why was Chocolate Cake even at this like high school party anyway? But I will digress. All right. We are at the top 3 now, which we'll probably just do these. They probably won't touch on the last year's ones. All right. Let's see at number 3. Predator Killer of Killers. So is this the... Yeah, this is... Well, no, Event Horizon also. I think it's just this and Event Horizon that are first time watches for me. Yeah. So I wanted to see this one because we recently got Hulu. So I was like, why not? And obviously Predator movie here. Animated, so that may not work for some people. So just awareness on that one. But I mostly enjoyed it. Let me grab some of the art style to share with you guys. It's pretty well received. 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, it's the animated one. Let me grab you. So pretty much the point is here, we have 3 separate stories taking place here. So we have like this Viking, who you can kind of see here in the trailer picture. You have this like samurai, and you have this, I think it's World War II fighter pilot kid. And each of them have their own separate stories to where they are doing whatever's happening in their story. And then a predator shows up and fights them. And they ultimately beat the predator. With the Viking, her son is with her, and I think he winds up getting like a little bit crushed. That one is very much like God of War, like Kratos and Atreus. And the samurai one, it was a little bit like a Sekiro type of vibe. But it's like him, and I think it's his brother that he's like fighting. And then a predator shows up there. And then the last one, probably the least believable one, was this kid who's like this fighter pilot, as mentioned, and he's fighting this predator who's also in his own like spaceship. And this is like the kid's first time out in like a combat zone, and he somehow like pulls off all these maneuvers. So that there's a bit of suspension of disbelief with what all he does. He like climbs out on the wing at one point, like fixes the engine out there. So some of the stuff is like, I don't know if that would happen, but it's an animated like fun sci-fi horror movie, so I mostly forgave it. But after that, so each of them have their own 3 stories in which they defeated a predator in their timeline. Well, apparently after they did so, the other predators in the race captured them. And it turns into a bit of a gladiator movie at the end where these 3 are killer of killers. So they killed a predator, so they're viewed as being like worthy. And there's this big like predator at the end, and he's pretty much like, you 3 fight each other, and the winner can take on me to see who's like the best. So it's very like barbaric. And they can't really like communicate very well because they're from different time periods. They speak different languages. There's a bit of a like the samurai and the fighter pilot kind of can talk, but the woman is like very much just like being very like brutal, barbaric Viking. Like she's down. She starts trying to kill the samurai. And he's just like being very defensive, being like, hey, let's not do this. But yeah, they wind up fighting for a bit. And I think the samurai loses his arm at the end. And him and the kid get away, though, on a ship. And I'm pretty sure it's the Viking that jumps down to like sacrifice because she finally like teams up. And they kind of get away. And then they're just being chased by, it's a bit of a cliffhanger ending where they're being chased by other predator ships at this point. So not sure if they'll do a sequel, but let me see if some of the visuals are on here. You can kind of see with this picture, I guess. Like the art style, if you guys have watched Arcane at all, like the League of Legends Netflix show, the art style kind of reminded me of that, where it's like, it's almost like well, not entirely. I was going to say like the Miles Morales movies, but It's very gory though. Like surprisingly for like don't go into this thinking it's gonna be like a kids thing. Like it is very gory. Like people are getting like mutilated left and right. People are getting chopped in half. It's pretty aggressive. Like it may be the goriest movie on this list, even though it's animated, so it's a little bit more palatable probably. But yeah, let me see what else I had as far as comments for this one. I will say the order of like probably stories that I liked. I probably liked the samurai the most, then the fighter pilot, then the Viking, but they were all decent. What else? The Predator, I mentioned, I didn't really love the Predator depiction here because they're kind of just being pitched as being like very brute oriented. Like they don't have much like strategy or thinking. They're just very much like, let's fight. So that I didn't love. Also, them being killed by these characters kind of like it diminishes their like impact on how strong they are. But I don't know. Overall, I think it still worked like extremely well for me, and I would recommend checking it out if you can tolerate animated and if you like Predator. It's not a scary movie. It's pretty gory, as I said, though. So there's also heavy in the spoilers at this point. There's teases to other movies in the franchise. You can kind of see it here with whoever made this thumbnail. But we see, I never watched Prey, but like post credits, we see an animated version of the main lead, and then we see, is it Dutch is his name? We see Arnold also there being held in captivity. So the assumption is anybody who's killed any of these predators are in this like group of people who have been captured and are now viewed as being like a dominant like violent species or violent like person. Prey's one of the best. I've heard it's amazing, so I'll need to check it out for sure. But yeah, if you can dig animation, like it's a cool art style. Like you have here's no, that's not the kid, that's the like teacher. Here's kind of the Viking girl. See her a little bit better there. This is the kid, the fighter pilot kid. Is the samurai gonna be on here? I mean, you can kind of see some of these pictures. That may be him there. But yeah, pretty cool. Like, I don't always like anthology type of things where it's like telling separate stories, but the fact that they converge at the end, I was like, okay, there was a reason you kind of told me a story, then moved on. Same director of Badlands. Yeah, that's why I'm optimistic towards how that one's going to be, even though it's PG-13. All right, we are getting to the top of the list here. Number 2. Carriers. So this is probably a personal choice. I could get if people are like, I would not put it that high. Like, totally understandable. Let's see what the score is even on Rotten Tomatoes. %62%. So yeah, it's not perceived as being top tier necessarily, but for me, I don't think I probably like it more too, because I watched it like around when it came out, I believe. When did it come out? 2009. And watched it again with my wife who had seen it separately. I think she had that DVD of it, so it probably has a bit of nostalgia for me, but pretty much the plot here is it's pretty standard like Walking Dead type of thing with zombie. Well, they're not really zombies, I guess, with infection type of thing. Honestly, post like pandemic, a lot of it, like there's CDC references. But let me switch over here. You have Chris Pine kind of in the prime Chris Pine era. This is probably around when he did Star Trek. I think Chris Pine's kind of an underrated actor. He's one that I enjoy. And then you have his brother. So these are the two siblings. And I think this is a guy from Evil Dead 2013 also. Yeah. So you have them as brothers here. And pretty much it's a very basic story. You have them trying to evade this infection in this like post-apocalyptic world, and they're trying to go to this beach because when they were kids they went there and they think it's going to be pretty isolated, and they have like these deep memory attachments to it, and the younger brother actually has like a picture of them at the beach even, so it's a very much like a heartfelt-ish story. Chris Pine is kind of a dick during a lot of it, in an endearing way, if that's possible, because he's playing like the older brother type role where it's like, I need to protect you. I'll make the tough choices. I'll, kill somebody who needs to be killed so that you don't have to, essentially. And we have these other two women with him. So this is Chris Pine's girlfriend here. Is she in? What else is she in? Coyote Ugly. I don't really know much else. I don't think that she's in The Prestige. Okay. But this is his girlfriend. And this girl, they kind of just hint at the younger brother picked her up along the way. They're not in a relationship. They're just kind of like acquaintances that fell into each other. And a pretty short cast here, I would say, where they're traveling. They run into this guy. They need gas at one point. And this guy's got a daughter who's infected, and he is protecting her. Seeing anything else? Law and Order, I guess. He's kind of a familiar face, I'll say. But they want to bring him along, and they put him in the back seat though with like stuff so he's like blocked out. It's kind of weird though. They don't put a mask on him, but they put a mask on his daughter. Not sure why. And they take him to the location where he's wanting to go eventually. But when they get there, they find out it's not actually as great as he was hoping. There's like a doctor who's like studying or like doing experiments on kids, which he wants to kill the guy. I think they just ultimately leave him there, but pretty much they want to go to the beach. He wants to go to this one location where there's potentially a cure. He finds out there's not. They wind up leaving him there, so kind of sad. And then, but when they're there, they leave the daughter in the car, and sure enough, the girlfriend makes a bad choice, and she gets like blood spat in her face and gets the infection essentially, but she's trying to hide it. They wind up going to like this like resort, like a golf course type thing, and they're just hanging out for the night. And these people come back. There's also, you see people get shot kind of throughout, so the world is very bleak at this point. And they're at this resort, and these people show up, and it very much, we talked about Jurassic Park earlier. There's a scene where they're like hiding in the kitchen behind like one of the counters. It very much felt like a Jurassic Park thing. And the guy, it made more sense when I thought about it afterwards, because this group of people that showed up presumably live here. But he's like walking, he sees like there's two knives missing from the knife block, so he immediately is like, oh, there's somebody here. So they wind up kidnapping our characters. And they want to keep the girls, but they want to let the guys like tell them to leave. So kind of that like creepy type thing. And sure enough, they find out that the girlfriend is infected. She has like, her skin has got a little bit of like a rash on it. So the four of them just all kind of wind up leaving eventually. And they wind up leaving the girlfriend behind at like this gas station, because Chris Pine's got to make the tough choice and say, you know what? I love you, but you're like, you made a mistake. You kind of have to live with your choices. So it's kind of one of those like dilemmas where it's like, would you keep her with you, or would you dump her behind? Because he doesn't even want to leave her in the car like they did with the couple earlier, or the father and the daughter. He just wants to dump her there, which he does. And fast forward a bit, they are just kind of hanging out, and we find out that Chris Pine, somewhere along the way, contracted it from her because she was not telling people about it. So it's a pretty sad ending. He's like at a campfire with the other two, and they're like wanting to leave him. He's like kind of lucid going in and out. And he comes up to the car and he's like, hey, you guys are leaving without me? And he looks pretty creepy. I don't know if it's going to show any of that or not. But it's pretty sad. His brother winds up having to shoot him. So now it's just the two of them, these two. And they do make it to the destination, and it's at the beach spots, and it kind of like wraps up the story of they're like the brothers, and it's pretty sad overall. But these two wind up making it there, and there's presumably nobody else there, and they're able to like live out the future there. But I don't know, it's a pretty heartfelt story with like while it's simple, like the bond between brotherhood and stuff like that. You're back. Just got here. Okay. Yeah, the ending is very sad. I kind of forgot about the ending. I remembered them dropping off the girlfriend because she screwed up, but I had not remembered how sad the Chris Pine stuff was. You probably know him from Star Trek. He's been in a lot of stuff. I guess Princess Diaries. But he plays Captain Kirk, right? In Star Trek. The like newer ones. Newer being like now 15 years old. But he's in quite a few things. So I would check it out. As I said, it's probably not as high as I put it for a lot of people, but I think it's still a worthwhile watch. All right, let's go to the finale here. The Cabin in the Woods. So this is one that Rusty had requested, which I happily was willing to watch it because I had seen it before and I really like it. I wasn't entirely sure where it would fall on my like numerical score. Like there's parts where I'm like, is this a 10 out of 10 for me? But then there's some slower parts like maybe more towards an 8. So I landed on a 9, which I think is about right. But a pretty wild story here. So pretty much the backstory with this one is there is this like organization behind the scenes who handles like these higher beings called the Ancient Ones, who are pretty much were at their mercy of doing what they want. And what they want is having us sacrifice people in a certain way to where there's like 5 people being sacrificed that fit each of these like tropes that you would typically expect. And there's like a virgin at the end who they're indifferent on if they die or not, but they have to be like the last one alive either way. And this group of friends go out to this like vacation cabin, and that's where these like sacrifices take place. So this organization kind of lured this group of friends out there. I think one of them says like, oh, my cousin has this cabin out there, and we find out it's kind of a made up thing to lure them out there. And when they're out there, they can like, the people in charge of this game can like release gas and stuff like that to like influence their behaviors. Like they can make them like be dumber in some spots or like be more emotional in some spots. They can pretty much influence everything going on here. And we have these like creatures come out and attack them like zombie type things. And we have kind of it's definitely a horror comedy. We have our lead is like very much the comedic relief, where he's like the typical stoner, where he's like, I don't know, just not fully present most of the time. This kind of looks like Ryan Reynolds here. But where is he at? I don't know if there's a picture of him per se. I mean, he's with the group, obviously, but he is the kid holding the lantern, or the kid right here. But yeah, he is kind of secretly our main character. We don't really know who's the lead for a while because it's just this group of 5. And you have like Chris Hemsworth in it, who's like a well-known actor. I think even back then it was probably, he was moderately popular. And so they get attacked and so forth and are dying in various ways. Like Chris Hemsworth is probably the funniest one, where he tries to escape by jumping over this cliff to like get out of the situation. And he has like this motorbike, and he finds out there's this invisible wall keeping them in there, and he crashes right into it. And it's pretty gnarly. But eventually we're down to like our 2 characters. So like our main girl character, our virgin, if you will, and the fool, the stoner kid, who apparently, because he's like smoking this whole time, he is not able to be influenced by all these like things that the people are running the game with, which once again, not supposed to be taken super seriously. Eventually them 2, they go down, and we kind of see it in this picture, I guess. They go down to this world where all of these monsters are being held, and they're kind of summoned at different times, and that's the point of the game. And I put it in my review for it, but they go down in this area, and they wind up releasing all of the monsters. So they're all like running loose at this point, and that's when the movie like really goes absolutely crazy. Like they're tearing all of these like military people and like just the people at this facility to shreds. You also have the one of the people running the game. I think it's the guy from Step Brothers, is it? Yeah, this guy. Yeah. So him and this dude is also from Billy Madison, right? Yeah. They're the ones pretty much running the game. Sigourney Weaver's kind of like overseeing everything, and they're kind of like the ones in charge. But you have these 5 friends here. This is also the guy from Detroit Become Human, if you played that game. But yeah, at the end, they're just like tearing everybody apart. And then we're left with Marty and Dana. And Dana has to kill Marty to stop the Ancient Ones from like taking over, and like she has to complete the ritual. She winds up not being able to do so. Then they wind up just saying, screw it, maybe like humans' time should be done with at this point, and kind of let the next phase of life happen, kind of like dinosaurs, where it's like, hey, evolution will take place, someone else will be here after humans, because where was the big hand? Because at the end, the Ancient Ones win, essentially. It winds up being true that this was a actual ritual that needed to be done. And they kind of just fade to black with presuming like we all die. So kind of a funny ending. It very much leans into the comedy of like horror tropes, I will say. But a worthwhile watch if you haven't watched it, and it's one you can go back to, I think, a bunch and still have a good time with. Haven't seen Cabin in the Woods. Yeah, it is very Evil Dead. Evil Dead has some comedy, but like ramp up the comedy, and you have the Cabin in the Woods. You've watched Star Trek since Patrick Stewart, really? You should watch the Chris Pine ones. I think I only watched the first 2, but they were solid. Directed by the same guy who made Buffy and the Avengers. Drew Goddard. But yeah, definitely worthwhile, and is at the top of our list for today. So pretty solid group of movies we had here. I know last year I think I had a little bit more ones that I didn't like. Like Strange Darling's probably the only one I would say on the list that like is not my my go-to movie. But the other ones, I mean, some are below average or around average, but honestly, a lot of these I feel like are worth checking out at least to see if they work for you. I mean, even probably Strange Darling, it may hit for you better than me. So, but yeah, that recaps our list. So we had Strange Darling, Creep, Paranormal Activity, Lost Boys, Smile 2, Event Horizon, Halloween 78, The Black Phone, Weapons, Hereditary, Predator, Killer of Killers, Carriers, and Cabin in the Woods. So that is our list. Oh, he produced it. Got it. Makes sense. So yeah, I think that covers everything. So I don't know, any final thoughts from you guys on any of these, or other than that, we'll probably close out here pretty short. We're going for a couple hours, so. As far as upcoming channel stuff, I mentioned Welcome to Derry. I'll probably watch that either tonight or tomorrow, then get the review out for that pretty quickly. I've heard good things so far, so hopefully it's a solid one. Ratings are fine. Solid. Trying to think what else. Maybe we'll do another live over the next couple of days. Probably not the latter part of next week. At some point, I need to wind up playing Halo Reach and finish up playing those games. But yeah, other than that, I debated playing Fear. I don't know if people played that game at all. I made a post about this, but apparently Condemned, the game that we played, I don't know, about a month ago at this point, has been pulled from Steam and Xbox, so you can't buy it anymore digitally, which leads me to believe that they're gonna probably make a remaster of it. So interesting to see what'll happen there. But yeah, probably at some point, as I said, play Halo Reach, the Welcome to Dare review, and then beyond that, I mean, we have Stranger Things at the end of the month, but just kind of play it by ear between now and then. So yeah, other than that, I think that probably wraps everything up for today. And I think we'll close out. Let me turn off the music here. Appreciate you guys hanging out and hopping and giving your thoughts on each of the 13 movies, and just the other chat revolved around other movies as well. Gonna watch Thanksgiving. That was one I did last year, actually. So I reviewed it if you want to take a look at that. But that was one of my 13 from last year, I believe. So decent movie. I'm curious to see what they'll do with the sequel, I will say. But yeah, I appreciate you guys hanging out for a bit. And either I'll see you in my Welcome to Dairy video or next live stream. So take care, guys. Have a great weekend.